folks, it's Ben. We're here with our 1989 Ford Probe GT. We're sitting on it with the car on because somebody had asked a question about the trip computer here. Now it actually lives underneath the dash right there, and you can see its display. But what do these buttons do and what can you use them for? So let's just take an in-depth look and see what this computer can do for us. So starting with across the top here, we have number one, which is average fuel economy, and that's where we're at right now. So if you press that button, it brings you to this screen, which says that we're getting an average of 30.5 miles per gallon average. So that's over time. So I don't know what the length of time it uses, but I believe you can reset this by holding down the reset and economy buttons at the same time down here, and that will actually reset that number back to 0, and then it'll start gathering new data. So if you were drag racing, might not be a good time to grab your average fuel economy. If you're going on a highway trip, same idea. The next one is the instant fuel economy, and this is the one I traditionally leave it on. It's blank right now, but what it does is it gives you the what are you getting for fuel economy right now. So if you're going down a hill, it'll actually go to 999. And if you're going up a hill, it'll actually go down to something like 14 miles per gallon or something like that, depending on whatever fuel's going into the engine at whatever speed you're going at. So it'll actually give you a real-time, right now, fuel economy display. So between the two of these, you can figure out exactly what your fuel economy is and what's the best driving time. The next button we have is DTE, or distance to empty. And so that's essentially on modern cars, you press this and right now we're showing 422. We can go 422 miles before our fuel tank is empty based on, I'm guessing, the fuel gauge. Maybe it's thinking how much fuel it can hold in its fuel economy. I don't know, but I'm sure that the average fuel economy and the distance to empty are related. Whether or not it's related to the fuel gauge or not, I don't know. The exterior temp is this next button here. So if you press it, it's telling us that we're currently 77 degrees outside. Now the neat part about this button, and it says it in the manual, is that if you're driving for over 5 hours, it will actually display the temperature of when the car started, not 5 hours into your trip. So I'm guessing that it might be in an area where the car gets too hot. It warms the sensor. That I'm not sure. It's just a neat tidbit. And then the metric button is fairly clear. It switches everything to metric. So your average fuel economy switches to liters per 100 km. Your distance to empty is now in kilometers. Your exterior temp is in Celsius. So it kind of switches you around. Obviously, the average speed is exactly what you think it is. So right now, we're averaging 54 kilometers an hour. Let's go ahead and switch that back to 33 average miles per hour for the car. So when it is running, how fast is it going? The distance is a trip odometer, essentially. The car has a mechanical one there, and I'm sure every single car gets that. But if you have a trip computer, it's a kind of an extra feature that you can do, and you can press the reset button to clear it. Destination is an interesting one, and so this is where it kind of gets into the computer, but how it's not really more than a graphics calculator. If you hold down the set key for about 2 seconds, it'll actually allow you to type in a distance, and then you press set again, and it locks it in there. And what that does is it lets you know, let's say you know grandma's house is 100 miles away. So you type in destin set 100 set, and it will actually put in the 100 miles, and then it'll count it down for you. So you can actually see how far you've gone. And then so the E time is the elapsed time. So if you press this, how long have you been traveling for? So if it's essentially a timer. So if you reset the timer back to 0, it will just essentially start counting the time. So how long have you been driving? And that's directly related to the last button, which is the ETA, which is estimated time of arrival. So if you press that, it'll actually calculate when you're driving. If you put in a destination of 100 miles and you're traveling at 60 miles per hour, how long does it take to get where you're going? So it'll actually show you a time, which will vary with your speed. So if you're doing down the interstate and you're hopping just off the interstate, it's probably pretty accurate. If you're going down the interstate and down a windy, twisty road at 45 miles per hour or whatever, not so much. But that's kind of a cool little trip thing it can do. You don't actually have to plan it out, but if you know how far you're going, if town's 50 miles away, you can push in, set your time to 50, and there you go. I just leave it on the instant fuel economy, and I close the lid, And that's mostly what I use it for, because, you know, between phones and knowing where I'm going and things like that, I don't really need to know right away how far I'm going. I just, you know, I know. But if you were going somewhere neat, or you knew that you were 2,800 miles away from your destination, hey, you can totally type that in there. You're allowed up to 4 digits. So you could do 2,800 miles or 9,999 miles type of thing. And you could hit your ETA and say, okay, pal, how long is it going to take me to travel if I, you know, drive constantly? And if you cross the border, metric only works on the computer, doesn't do anything obviously for the analog gauges that are here. But that's kind of the quick rundown on exactly what the trip computer and the Ford Probe does for you. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Subscribe to Red Barn Homestead. Ask questions. I'm happy to answer them while I've got the car here. I love the courtesy bell on this thing. It is so like calm. Having just worked on a Pontiac Fiero and it's screaming at you. Very calm, collective type of thing. But yeah, if you have any comments or questions, leave them. Subscribe to my channel, Turbo231, for more cool videos. And I will see you next time.